Hello, and welcome to Joy and Gratitude. I'm Neo Queiro,
And I'm Beth Mercurio.
and we are so excited to be here um, and share with you our journey, how we started, and why we're doing this. So, Beth, you want to start the story on how we met and decided to create this incredible podcast.
I would love to. I mean, I keep trying to think of how to characterize it. And what comes to mind for me is like electric birth. It was like we experienced a birth together in this incredible moment. And I think rather than start with that moment, I think it might be really interesting and fun to talk a little bit about who we are. And then we can talk about how we had this incredible opportunity to make a connection. And partly what I love about this is the simplicity of the fact that it was really just through a connection call, a curiosity call, to get to know each other because my husband thought you were amazing and you guys worked together, and you can talk a little bit about that. But that he was just like, I think you two people need to meet. And I only want to pause and just say that right away because I think there's such power in connection, and we forget that something as simple as saying yes to having a conversation with someone, having somebody that mutually thinks two people would enjoy each other. It's like if anybody ever says to you, I think you should really talk to this person, the answer should always be, oh my gosh, I would love to. And yes, because this is just one example of many, I'm sure many people have, where they picked up the phone, they had that call, and it was life changing. And so we'll share a little bit about that life changing phone call. But before, I can certainly start with myself. So I am currently an executive coach. I like to think more than anything, I'm a work in progress. And that really, I'm just a human that's on this like incredible journey. And my background was mostly in business, and I spent, almost 3 decades in the business industry. First working for Gillette in the Oral B brands and some of the shave prep brands back in the day. And I loved that opportunity, and I learned a ton. And then I shifted when Procter and Gamble bought Gillette and moved into a third generation plumbing manufacturing company, where they really needed some work on the consumer side of the business. They were mostly commercial at the time. And fast forward 14 years, which I still can't believe, I stayed with that organization. Partly because they gave me such incredible opportunity, which I just need to say, right? I was able to morph with them as I morphed in my career, and I moved from marketing into strategy. And then the last thing I did for them was work on innovation, and I created a startup tech business. So had the experience of finding white space and then creating a business and launching that business. And that was kind of an incredible experience. So broad range of experience, but all of that is to say, while that was all happening, I also was raising two children. I also was a perfectionist. I was an achiever. And I was highly stressed out and anxious. And so, in some ways, I have such gratitude for my experience in corporate, and in other ways I'm in corporate recovery. I don't know what to call myself, corporate revolutionary. Like, I'm now sort of coming to this place where I have a lot of gratitude for what corporate brought me and how it got me to this place in my life, but I also now am really ready for something different. And that's what I work with my clients on. So when COVID hit, I really had the COVID clarity moment I know many of us have had, which sort of said, what am I doing? I am on a treadmill here. I'm running as fast as I can, and it's not fast enough. Like, I'm almost falling off the back, right? So I think COVID was the button that pushed stop and threw me off the back of the treadmill, and I landed pretty wounded on the ground. But it was because of that that I thought, wait a minute, I have a lot. I hopefully have a lot of years left, right? We never know, but I would hope that I do, and I need to spend them differently. And I need to be more present with the people that I care about, and I need to find something that fills my soul. And so it was in that time that I started to really realize that through all of my corporate years, the only thing that really gave me a ton of joy, like noticeable joy, was when I was in leadership offsites. I know that sounds crazy, but when we would do that work around self awareness, around emotional intelligence, around really understanding how you interact with people and how you build trust and how you give feedback, like those were the things that really resonated with me. And I would look forward to those days. And I remember lots of my colleagues would dread those days. They would say, oh my God, we have to go off site and do that soft skills stuff. And I remember always thinking, somebody once said, soft skills, those are the hard skills. And I was like, damn straight, those are the hard skills. So that was my moment where I started to really realize, this is the space I want to spend more of my time. And that is when I sort of shifted and started to do some embodied leadership work through the Strozzi Institute and just kind of discover what are the things that are out there and how can I help other people realize, like, if they want to make a shift, if they want to make a change, whether they stay in a role or whether they make a shift out of a role or into some new career, just kind of what's possible, to shift their mindset into what's possible and to always know that there's options out there. You don't have to stay in something that doesn't feel good, because I stayed in something that didn't feel good for a really, really long time. And now I want to share the power of what it feels like on the other side of that and give people um, the tools that they need to make different choices and to become creators in their lives. So that's me, and now you'll hear from Neo where she's at, and then you'll probably see why we found each other. But Neo, tell us about
Yes.
you.
It's funny that you were able to mention that aha moment. And I remember when Oprah went out and started talking about aha moments. And I thought, lady, I don't know if you have that time. I don't have the time to think about them. Um, so I was on the career track, and I still am. I am an entrepreneur, have my own business in consulting, love revenue cycle. But one of the things that I put in the mission and vision of my business is bringing back the humanity
Mm,
into healthcare finance and understanding the real reason that we do what we do in healthcare. I have done every job in the finance area in healthcare. Um, I started my career very early on, and I had the opportunity to um, present to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, had the opportunity to get awards for innovation, and do so many things as a consultant and actually as an SVP of Revenue Cycle, which is where I met Beth's husband, Mike. Um, and at the time, I was doing a keynote, and we spoke after the keynote. Um, but for me, that moment, was after having 2 cardiac arrests
mm,
and waking up in that hospital room, very confused, not knowing what was going on, coming out of an induced coma, and seeing a room full of people so happy that I made it through, and asking myself, "Why am I here?"
mm,
And literally just focusing on not, um, the medical piece of it, but why did God bring me back? What was that purpose? And when we think of being a grown up, we look at it by age. We don't look at it by the internal growth. We don't look at it by who we become. How did we get curious? How did we go outside of our limited beliefs? We just think, I've gotten older. I've been able to raise a child. I've been able to have a mortgage. I've been able to drive the fancy car. And we think we're grown up. The fact of the matter is, that's not being grown up. That's just being an older human. And I started right after that moment, really reflecting on who I was. I wrote a book. I started speaking on national stage. And the reason that I did it was because I knew there were so many people like me that secretly were trying to find a place to belong and didn't know how. So we climbed the corporate ladder. We did everything, we got every accolade, but we still were lost. And they needed to have a place that it was safe to have the thoughts, to look for a way to get through and to use the power from within. My mission is to help people get that power back, to go into their core and understand that you do have the answers. It is in you. You just need to be able to have the curiosity to explore yourself. So, why are we doing this? We're doing this because I also am an executive coach, but we're both coaches and we're both in learning because we don't have all the answers. But as we're exploring our own journeys, we want to help you find yours. And it's exciting just being able to have the true conversations. You will not get BS here. You will get people that are going to show up and tell you that they had a rotten day. They're going to call bullshit when it happens, and they're going to be excited about the little things that make a difference. So that's why we're here.
That's
And
why
I'm
we're
so
here.
excited to be here.
Ah, Neos. I just get excited even like listening to how you describe it and the goosebumps I have around this term, sort of the power within, and that really is why we're here, right? To let everybody know it's not easy. There's a lot more questions than there are answers. They're all personal, but we can certainly be in it with you, and the ability to create community is so powerful, and it really does help to facilitate people's ability to find themselves within when they feel that they're being held by community, that they can be their true selves. And so if we can give people just a tiny taste of what it can feel like to really speak their truth and know it and start to even identify what it is. I certainly know for me, it wasn't as if I knew I was suppressing my inside and living this like world that was just all about the outside in instead of the inside out living. I don't think I really knew that until I really had to do a bunch of self-reflection, which for me, for you, obviously, a very traumatic experience. And for me, the version of COVID that sort of made me realize like this isn't how I want to live my life. I would love to share a little bit about, and then maybe you can share a little bit about joy. I'm sure people are curious, like joy and gratitude. Okay, how does that flow into this conversation? So I will just say that, I mentioned that I evolved into sort of this new person, right, with wanting to do new things and moving into coaching and finding myself and the power within. And I realized that at my table, at my kitchen table, we have been doing a little sort of activity to get our children to speak. I have two daughters, just to be clear. One is 20 years old, and the other is 18. And Neo mentioned my husband Michael. So we would sit at a table, the four of us, and about a decade ago, we were in on a vacation in Maine, and we found these gratitude. Well, there was a bunch of different rocks, but we picked out gratitude, and I sort of said, "We're all going to do this gratitude rock, and we're going to say something we're grateful for." And then I had a bunch of other rocks, and then we all got to choose one. And just to give you a little insight into myself, I mentioned achiever, perfectionist. All my children chose theirs fairly quickly. Michael chose his quickly. His was keep it simple. Lila's was inspire. Annie's was wish. And then it was my turn. And I was like, I literally was frozen. I was frozen and like, I'm going to get it wrong. And what if I get it wrong? And this other, more evolved power from within person was like, I think you just need to put it behind your back. You need to let go a little bit and it will choose, what's right for you. So I was like, that's novel. Okay, let me do that. Put it behind my back. And I look and it was grow. And honestly, like I still get emotional about the fact that it was grow because I've never stopped growing. It was this moment where I thought, did I just get that upset about a rock? And like, did my children watch me get that upset about a rock? Like they were less upset about it, right? Like, so needless to say that those rocks sat on our table and we would use them to spur conversation that got a little bit deeper than sort of like how was school and what teacher said what. And so we started doing that and we've done that for years and years and years. And we got more rocks added to the group, and more people would start to play with us and more people would come and ask for it. And then I mentioned COVID being this big moment. After COVID, maybe you guys can remind yourselves like where you were on that first Thanksgiving where you could finally be with extended family, right? Some of us had stayed isolated with our nuclear families, but it was the first time where people were wearing masks, but testing and getting to be together as a bit of a larger extended family. And so that's what we were with my parents, my in-laws, my nieces. We were all together and we started to do gratitude rocks. And it was in that moment where you can imagine everybody had to say what they were grateful for, and then everybody got a unique rock. And I just sat there and watched. I almost felt like I was watching from another location. Like, what is happening here? Like, people, there was so much emotionality, and it became so, so very clear to me that we were all feeling isolated. And that not only were we not connected to ourselves from this isolation that we felt, like literally physically isolation, but we were not connected to each other, I'm sorry, and to ourselves. Like, I don't think we even knew what was happening, right? While that was all happening, we were all sort of on this roller coaster ride of like like fear and just lack of knowing. And so I think I watched these small words just have such crazy beautiful impact on allowing people to share how they were feeling about where they were in their lives. So all of a sudden that moment turned into me creating something called the Gratitude Rocks program, all really focused on gratitude as a gateway to self reflection. So, when we talk about power from within, if you're not really used to thinking, how do I feel? Or like, what is something that I'm grateful for? This small way gets you into a practice of starting to do that to enable you to get through some of these really hard times where you're just like, I don't even know what to do. I'm spinning. I'm feeling out of control. I'm not well physically or mentally. And it's just one tiny way, but it's a gateway. And I know, that's there's so much more to say, and there'll be plenty more examples and fun things to talk about. But I just wanted to sort of segue into why gratitude became such a pillar for me and for my life and for everybody that I work with. And as you can imagine, gratitude and joy are beautifully linked. So I'm going to let Neo share why joy is so important in her life and her journey.
Absolutely. And it is. You can't have one without the other, and for me, joy, and joy has been the moniker of my book. My book is Joy Notes: Balancing Trauma with Triumph. And it comes from music. One of the things that I learned is that in the toughest times, there's one universal language, and music is that universal language that can actually hug you in despair, lift you up when you're at your lowest, and you celebrate it when you're in joy. So when I started the journey of writing a book, I really, the first question somebody says, well, what makes your book? Why do you think that your story is different than anybody else's? What is it that you're trying to invoke that nobody else is thinking of doing? And in my case, I really sat in that personal closet and I looked at my life and I wondered, what was that thing that made me persevere and continue in resiliency? And music, there was a song for every moment.
Mm.
And then I started talking to other women that had gone through insane trauma, and they all had songs that went through the trauma. Then I got the great opportunity to talk to a dear friend, Gloria Gaynor. And we talked about the true story behind I Will Survive and how it aligned with her personal trauma of being paralyzed and coming through, losing everything: home, money, status, her actual career. And there, through music, she was able to come through. And if you're a spiritual person, you know, God's name is a song. Ah, Awa. Awa is God with us all over. And He is, he, she, whoever you want Him to be, He's everything, is a song, a breath. It is the ability to really embark into joy. So when we met, we were already in synergy, and we knew that we could bring this to our community because we all deserve the right to be in a safe place, that you could just breathe, exhale. So we will play some music, lift up some gratitude rocks, and we will make it through in the joy, in the tough times, but it always will end in joy and gratitude. Now, let's talk about how we met. Mhm.
Well, can I just dive
Yeah.
in? Okay. I have to say one thing before I dive in, which is just part of what's lovely you'll hear from this story is we had an electric birth. And so we're still continuing to grow together, right? We're becoming toddlers and teenagers. We get to do all that together. So we still continue to learn stuff about each other. And I just wanted to say, the Gloria Gaynor, I grew up with my mother singing that at the top of her lungs, and we would like dance around the living room. And I remember holding spoons, like those were my microphones, and singing I Will Survive, and then passing that on to my children. So I'm sure the other thing that we will talk about is intergenerational impact, right? But that was just this beautiful memory where I thought, oh my gosh, like of all songs, that was one where like I have such an embodied memory of how that song impacted me, just like you said, music, the power of music. And that so much so that I had to make sure that my kids knew what it felt like to sing that song, which is so powerful, and to just let it be in your body freely, right? Like literally, like the movement that goes associated with I Will Survive is just so incredible. So I just had to share that that's like, of course, of course. That's all we could say, of course. So, okay, so Neo mentioned that she knows my husband from her work life in healthcare finance, and obviously my husband knows me and knows what I've been working on, and has been, very involved with Gratitude Rocks as a participant for a really long time, and he knows how much the gratitude practice and the practice of gratitude has impacted me. And then he was talking and listening to Neo, and just thought we should definitely meet. So we get on a phone call, we schedule that, and Neo graciously said yes to my, Michael's introduction. And so we planned that call, and we got on the call, and we instantly had energy connection. And I remember that. For those of you that feel energy and believe energy, and I really wholeheartedly believe that we're all energetically connected, and some people's energies like nervous system connects right away. And so when you tune into that, you know it's happening. You're like, oh, there's that thing. I'm having like a really clear energetic connection. And the beauty is, this was virtual, just to be clear. We were not together physically. It was really a virtual connection that was happening. And we were so excited, and we were amplifying our energy together. It was like getting higher and higher and greater. And it was time for me to start to talk about Gratitude Rocks, right? Like, hey, this is what I'm up to. What are you up to? We were learning about each other. And so I said it was much easier to just play, right? Like, will you just do it with me? Let's experience it together, because that's much easier than talking about it. As much as I've tried to explain it on this podcast, it's easier to just do it. So I had my gratitude rock, and I said, okay, what are you grateful for? And I remember, we can have two different versions of the story, who knows? But my version of the story is that she was like, like your energy. And she named that there was this really beautiful connection that was happening. And she was really grateful that we were in conversation, and that she felt like we were supposed to meet. Right. And I remember her saying
Yep.
that. And I was like, oh. So that felt really nice. And now I want you to remember that she has never heard about this program. She's experiencing it for the first time. And I mentioned to you that I had gratitude and a whole bunch of others, right? And so I have literally a bag full. There's like 30 in here. And she has no idea what's like what are the words that are on them? Like, she has no concept. So I'm like, all right. And so then I just speak about energy. I put my hand to my heart and I say, Neo, I'm choosing this for you. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, I'm looking for it now. I chose this. I chose joy. And literally, for both of us, I just remember I'm laughing because there's a mic right here. I'm like, it was well beyond a drop the mic moment. It was like we couldn't talk. I actually think Neo got up, like out of her chair.
I
we
did.
were both, we were like, so when I say electric, like that's electric. Like my whole body was like tingling, and I was like, what is happening? Like, how did I choose joy? This is like
I couldn't
joy and
breathe.
gratitude, right?
Yeah, I couldn't
It was
breathe.
like,
It was so
ah,
crazy, and it just was that moment. That moment, I just said, "Let's do a podcast." And I don't know where it came from. I gotta be
it
I
was
gotta be honest. I don't know where that came from. All I knew was, like, we gotta be together,
mhm,
and we have a message to provide, and guess what? It's the right energy. We're so different, yet we're so the same. We're both
Mhm.
A-type personalities. We are perfectionists on recovery. And but we are coming from it from two different lenses, respecting each other's lenses. And that was so powerful to me because sometimes people that are trying to do this type of work spend so much time thinking they're right. And I have to be very honest with you, I am not right. And it's okay.
Mm.
I am learning and I appreciate everybody's lens, whether I agree with it or not. But when I'm with them, I could see who they are and where they're coming from, and I can accept that. But I knew in that moment that together we could do something good. And I'm all about the right thing. So I said it. Let's do this.
She jumped. And you can imagine, I'm like, "Did you just ask me to co-host a podcast? Like, did that just happen?" But just like you, I've read all about whole body yeses, right? I've done the what does a whole body yes feel like? What does a no feel like? What does a maybe feel like? And I was like, "Oh, that's the whole body yes." I remember I said yes, and just like you, I had no idea what I was saying yes to. I don't know. I was like, "Yeah." And then we were literally like, "Okay, we'll talk about it later." But I knew that this was yes. I knew that we could create something beautiful. I also knew that even the story itself would give people some perspective on like, hey, you don't have to always know. Sometimes you
No.
just jump. I mean, we just like, I feel like I can picture us standing at the ledge, just like holding hands and being like, all right, let's go. And we just jumped off together, right? We were like our own
Yeah.
version of Thelma and Louise, right? Like, but like, I want other people to know that's okay. We didn't script this out and say what we should do and that it's okay to try and if it doesn't work that's okay. And so just like you said, this ability for people to understand that there's no prescription. There's no like you have to do it this way. It's like each one of us is on our own personal journey and every one of them looks different. And so all we want to create is like a world of possibility, a world where we enable people to become creators of their own life and their own journey. Where we just say, yeah, try it. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Try something else, right? And so if they hear those little voices or they feel that electric shock, to say like that's real, don't ignore that because I think sometimes people are just like, "I don't know, how did you know?" And we're trying to help people tune in to ways that they can figure out how they know, to
Yeah.
ways to just say, "Try it," and start to feel what it can feel like to tune into the of power within, as you said, the power within. That's like I'm just
Yeah.
energized even thinking about how it happened all over again. It's like amazing.
Yeah. And absolutely. I mean, we're going on this journey. We're getting to know each other, which is also a wonderful thing because you're going to see us grow
Mhm.
right in front of you, which lets you know that it's never too old to, you're never too old to grow and never too late to grow, never too late to try new things, never too late to be your whole authentic self.
Mm.
And I will tell you one thing that we will promise you we are not cliche. We have no interest in coming in here with these, ooh, these are the words that should be used and all that stuff. And, that, uh, no, that's not what this is about. This is about taking the pause for you.
Mm.
You know, you deserve that pause to think, maybe that's okay. Maybe I'll try it. Maybe it works better for me in a different way. That's okay. But we are your exhale pause. That's
Mm.
who we are.
Yeah, I love that. You nailed it. We are your exhale pause, and we're all learners. I love that you said that too. So I hope it becomes and feels like a community where they're sharing all around, right? So our words may just kickstart you to think about something, maybe you have different words, great. Like the more we can learn from each other, the better. We all elevate and grow when we're doing it like that, when we're listening intently to what other people are sharing and saying, and we see each other for who we all are. And the power of the pause, the power of the exhale, breathing together, all of this is what we hope this podcast will give you, and that you'll look forward to it like we do. And I love the unknown. We have no idea. We have no idea. So yeah, come on the journey with us. Hear how we learn and grow together. One as friends and colleagues, but also as a community, enjoying gratitude.
So, thank you for listening to Joy and Gratitude. And come on down and untangle yourself with us.